You didn't choose this path. You never woke up one morning and said, "Today I will unravel my identity. Today I will dissolve the illusion I have mistaken for myself." No one seeks out a spiritual awakening the way one seeks a promotion or a vacation, because to awaken is not to add something, it is to be stripped, torn, unmade. And yet, here you are. Something in you has already begun to rupture quietly and visibly, like tectonic plates shifting beneath the surface of a calm sea. You don't see it yet, not fully, but you feel it, in the fatigue that rest can't fix, in the ache for something you can't name, in the quiet dread that your old life, your old beliefs, your old attachments, your old mask no longer fit. This is not a breakdown. This is not depression. This is the death rattle of who you once were, and the soul whisper of who you are becoming. Spiritual awakening does not come with fireworks. It arrives in whispers, in signs so subtle, so strange you might miss them, but they are there. Clues left by your unconscious, symbols, fragments, synchronicities, a silent invitation to walk a path that will demand everything from you and give back something no one else can, yourself. The first hidden sign is this: a deep sense that something is wrong, even if everything looks right. It haunts you during laughter. It seeps through your successes. It wraps around your achievements like smoke, invisible but suffocating. Your life on the outside may appear perfect. You have what you once prayed for. But the soul has no interest in performance. It wants truth. And truth always begins with discomfort. This is the fracture point, the beginning of disillusionment. Not the pessimism of the cynic, but the vision of the awakened seeing through the polished mask you've worn for too long. The persona, that carefully constructed identity built not from your essence, but from expectation. Parental, cultural, social, even spiritual. A mask so convincing even you believed it, until now. The second sign is one you'd never expect. You start losing interest in what once defined you. The titles, the applause, the routines, the plans, the old dreams. They don't excite you anymore, and you don't know why. People tell you you've changed as if it's a crime. You nod, but inside you don't even feel like you're here. It's as if someone has turned down the volume of your old life and nothing tastes the same. That's because the false self is beginning to dissolve, and with it, the addictions that propped it up. Busyness, approval, distraction. You're being unhooked from the matrix of meaning you didn't realize you were plugged into. It's terrifying, it's liberating, it's irreversible, and yet, no one around you seems to understand. Which brings us to the third sign. You feel alone, not because you're isolated, but because you are awakening. The world you once fit into now feels like a foreign language. Conversations seem hollow. Relationships feel misaligned. Small talk tastes like dust. You no longer crave company, you crave authenticity. And that is a dangerous craving in a world addicted to masks. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But he never said it would be popular. He never said the path would be crowded. Because it isn't. To awaken is to step away from the herd, not out of arrogance, but necessity. It is to leave the safety of the village and wander into the forest of yourself. Not the forest of light, but of shadows, of echoes, of everything you were taught to avoid. And that is where the fourth sign shows its face, or more precisely, its shadow. You begin to meet parts of yourself you never wanted to see. This is the beginning of shadow work. Not as a concept, but as a lived experience. You begin to notice your reactivity, your wounds, your defense mechanisms, your projections, and they are no longer easy to justify. The mirror becomes unbearable until it becomes essential. You realize the enemy is not out there, it never was. The critic, the saboteur, the wound it lives within, it is you. And this is not bad news, this is sacred news. Because the moment you stop running from your shadow, you stop running from your power. But that's not what it feels like at first. At first it feels like falling apart, Which brings us to the fifth hidden sign. You mistake awakening for destruction because it is. There is a reason so many spiritual teachings refer to death and rebirth. It is not metaphor. It is reality. The ego dies, the illusion dies, the story dies, and with it, the version of you that was never real. Grief comes not just for what was lost, but for what was never truly lived. You mourn the wasted years, the false starts, the masks you wore so well. But beneath the grief, something stirs. A spark, a presence, a silence that is not empty, but alive. And then one day, without warning, you hear it. The sixth sign is not loud, it is not grand, but it is the most mysterious of all. You begin to sense guidance from something greater. Maybe it's in dreams, maybe it's in synchronicities. A symbol repeating, a phrase you needed showing up at the exact moment, a sudden knowing, a deep pull. The rational mind can't explain it, but the soul doesn't care. The soul moves in symbols, not logic. And it is speaking to you now if you're still enough to hear. This is the language of the unconscious. The realm Jung devoted his life to understanding. Archetypes, myths, visions. This is not fantasy. It is the ancient wisdom you forgot you carried. And it will not shout. It will only whisper until you are ready to listen. And when you do, when you surrender to that whisper, something shifts. And that finally brings us to the seventh hidden sign. You realize there is no going back, and for the first time, you're okay with that. The fear is still there. The unknown still looms. But there is something deeper now, a presence, a knowing, a clarity that doesn't come from answers, but from alignment. You are not who you were, and you're no longer trying to be. You are awakening. But awakening is not a destination, it is a dismemberment. The idea that you will someday arrive into a perfect state of light and peace is itself another illusion waiting to die. Awakening is not about being more spiritual. It is not about meditating longer, quoting Rumi, or learning to speak with gentler words. Awakening is about seeing without filters, without defenses, without the armor you've worn since childhood. And what you begin to see is terrifying. Not because the world is worse than you imagined, but because it is more real, more raw, and most of all because your role in it is no longer passive. Once you awaken, you are responsible for your perception. You can no longer blame the world for your suffering. You can no longer pretend you didn't know. You have seen too much, felt too deeply, died too profoundly. And so the next stage begins not as a high, but as a descent into integration. The slow, often painful process of reassembling what has been shattered, not into who you were, but into someone more honest, someone more whole. This is when the silence arrives. Not the silence of loneliness, the silence of presence. You begin to crave stillness. You turn down the volume of the outside world. Social media feels like noise. Gossip becomes unbearable. The news another distortion. You begin to realize you were never meant to consume this much chaos. Your nervous system, your psyche, your spirit, they were designed for depth, not distraction. And so, you unplug. Not because you hate the world, but because you finally love yourself enough to stop abandoning your inner world for the outer one. This stillness is sacred. It is where the fragments of your soul return, where intuition sharpens, where false narratives dissolve. And yet it is in this silence that you begin to face what may be the hardest truth of all, that you have been complicit in your own suffering, not intentionally, not consciously, but you've betrayed yourself for approval, for safety, for love that was never real. Now you feel the cost, the ache, the rage, the grief, not just for what was done to you, but for what you allowed, tolerated, participated in. This reckoning is holy. It is not meant to shame you. It is meant to free you. Because from this space of radical honesty, something else emerges, something deeper than forgiveness, compassion. You begin to see the pain beneath people's actions. You begin to recognize their projections, their shadows, their blindness, and you no longer take it personally. You stop trying to fix them. You stop trying to be understood. You stop explaining your evolution to those who have not earned your story. And instead, you return to yourself. This is individuation, the process Jung called the journey toward wholeness. Not perfection, wholeness. The integration of the conscious and unconscious, the uniting of opposites, the marriage of light and shadow, masculine and feminine ego and soul. It is not a state of bliss. It is a state of truth. And truth, when lived fully, is not loud. It is humble. It is quiet. It does not need to convince. It simply is. In this stage of your awakening, the world begins to look different, not because it changed, but because you did. You begin to move slower. Speak less. Listen more. You become allergic to performance, to falseness, to anything not rooted in presence. You no longer seek to be seen, you seek to see. You no longer chase meaning, you become it. You no longer pray for peace, you embody it. And slowly, without forcing, without striving, you begin to live in rhythm with something ancient, something deeper than culture, deeper than personality, deeper than the mask you once mistook for your face. You begin to live from essence. But essence is not soft. Essence is fierce. It is uncompromising. It will tear away anything not aligned with your soul. It will dismantle relationships that are rooted in ego. It will end careers built on survival. It will remove you from rooms that require your silence. It will strip away every false identity you've clung to, until nothing is left but what is real. And what is real? Not your name, not your job, not your reputation, not even your beliefs. What is real is presence. What is real is the part of you that watches, always watches from behind the noise of thought, the chaos of emotion, the illusion of personality. It has no name, no gender, no history. It simply is. And the more you live from that space, the more you understand why the old life had to fall apart. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The fire did not burn you, it revealed you. You are not awakening to escape the world. You are awakening to enter it, with your eyes open. But now that you see, you can no longer unsee. You no longer have the luxury of pretending. Pretending that what used to satisfy you still does. Pretending that shallow connections are enough. Pretending that numbing, escaping, shrinking is anything less than soul suicide. Once your spiritual awakening begins, the cost of self-abandonment becomes too high. You may try to go back to dull yourself with old habits, old patterns, old people, but something inside you won't allow it anymore. The pain is sharper now, not because you're broken, but because you're more alive, more conscious. Your system no longer tolerates the noise, the lies, the sleepwalking. This is the blessing and the burden of awareness. You feel more. You sense more. You carry the weight of depth in a world obsessed with surfaces. You see through people, through conversations, through entire structures of meaning. And it can make you feel exiled, like a ghost among the living. But you're not alone. Many are waking up. Quietly, invisibly, in their homes, in their jobs, in their silence. There is no parade, no grand announcement. Just a quiet army of souls, choosing truth over comfort, depth over distraction, integrity over image. You may not see them, but they exist. And one day you will recognize them in the way they look at you, in the calmness they carry, in the pain they no longer run from, in the love that feels like remembering. Because when you awaken, you no longer love with attachment. You love with awareness, with space, with reverence. You stop trying to possess. You start witnessing. You stop performing worth. You start radiating presence. This changes everything. You no longer beg to be chosen because you finally choose yourself. You no longer fear solitude because you finally enjoy your own company. You no longer chase validation because you finally trust your inner compass more than external applause. And in this new way of being, something strange begins to happen. Life starts speaking to you differently. The right books fall into your hands. The right people arrive, not perfect but aligned. The obstacles you once feared reveal their hidden teachings. The patterns you repeated for years start to loosen their grip, not because of luck, not because of magic, but because your frequency has shifted. You are no longer living from programming, you are living from presence. And presence is power, not power over others, not dominance or manipulation, but sovereignty, self-possession, the ability to move from your center no matter what storms rage around you, the ability to feel deeply and still respond consciously, the ability to be fully here now without pretending to be anywhere else. This is what it means to be awakened. Not floating above life, but rooted within it. Not escaping suffering, but making meaning of it. Not avoiding the shadow, but integrating it, dancing with it, letting it teach you where your power was buried. This is how the self is born, not through perfection, but through participation. You stop trying to be the light. You start becoming the container for all of it. Light, shadow, joy, rage, beauty, grief, silence, song. You become the whole, not the ideal. And in doing so, you embody what the mystic spoke of, what Jung spent his life studying: the union of opposites, the reconciliation of the split within, the sacred marriage of soul and ego, instinct and spirit, masculine and feminine, chaos and order. You are no longer seeking the path. You are becoming it. And every wound you carry becomes a doorway. Every shame becomes a key. Every breakdown becomes an initiation. You stop cursing the fire, and you start understanding that you are the flame. No teacher can give this to you. No doctrine can manufacture it. No guru can substitute your inner voice, because awakening is not something you achieve. It is something you allow, something you remember, something that was always there waiting for you to be still enough, honest enough, brave enough to return to it. And when you do, you realize something else. This was never about escaping the world. This was about returning to it, awake, open, anchored in the self. You are not here to float in bliss. You are here to embody your truth in chaos. You are not here to be untouched by pain. You are here to be transformed by it. You are not here to find the easy way out. You are here to walk the honest way through. This is the spiritual path. This is the soul's journey. This is the quiet revolution happening behind the scenes of ordinary lives, not in temples or retreats, but in kitchens, commutes, heartbreaks, and sleepless nights. This is your awakening, and it has already begun. And now here you are, not at the end of the journey, but at the beginning of a new one. Not elevated, not enlightened, not floating in some untouchable bliss, but grounded, raw, real, alive in a way you've never been before, aware in a way that both burns and liberates. This is the paradox of awakening. It does not give you answers, it gives you clarity. It does not eliminate pain, it deepens your capacity to hold it. It does not make life easier, it makes it more meaningful. Every conversation becomes sacred. Every silence becomes a teacher. Every breakdown becomes a mirror. You begin to see nothing is wasted. Not the betrayal, not the confusion, not the tears on the floor in the middle of the night, not the years you thought were lost. They were all part of it. Every fragment, every wound, every false identity, all leading you here, to this moment, where you are no longer chasing awakening because you've remembered it is already happening inside you. No book can define it. No ritual can complete it. No label can contain it. It is a mystery unfolding from within, a descent into depth, a return to essence, a burning away of everything that is not true, and a rebuilding from the ashes of your own becoming. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, and that is what this path demands. A radical, relentless return to the self beneath the self. Not the persona, not the projected image, but the self, whole, holy human. And from that place, your presence begins to change others. Not through teaching, not through preaching, simply through being. People feel something in you not because you are trying to be anything, but because you are no longer hiding. Your stillness becomes louder than their chaos. Your boundaries become invitations to integrity. Your silence becomes the echo of truth. You stop saving people. You stop explaining yourself. You stop shrinking to fit spaces that dishonor your soul. You become a mirror, not one that flatters, but one that reveals. And not everyone will like it. Some will resist it. Some will project onto it. Some will try to drag you back into their illusion because your freedom threatens theirs. And still, you do not return to the old roles. Not because you hate them, but because you outgrew them. You are no longer here to be liked. You are here to be real. You are no longer here to be understood. You are here to embody understanding. You are no longer here to play small. You are here to take up the space your soul was born to inhabit. This is the cost of awakening and the reward. You will lose many things: illusions, masks, shallow connections, the comfort of collective sleep. But what you gain is unshakable. It cannot be taken. It does not depend on circumstances. It lives in you, as you, the self, the truth, the inner flame. You carry it now, quietly, humbly, unapologetically. And that is enough, because you are no longer walking someone else's path. You are no longer reciting someone else's beliefs. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are becoming the embodied expression of your own soul. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's true. Not because it's perfect, but because it is the only thing worth living for. So if you feel like you are falling apart, let yourself fall. If you feel lost, trust that it is the soul pulling you inward. If everything you once clung to is slipping away, let it go. You are not dying. You are waking up, and everything you are losing is making space for everything you are. You don't need to rush. You don't need to force. You don't need to become anything other than exactly what you already are, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the roles. You are the space, the witness, the fire, the silence. You are the unfolding, the remembering, the truth that cannot be taught, only lived. And if you've heard the call, if you've felt the rupture, if you've walked through the night with no map, then know this: your spiritual awakening has already started, and your soul is already rising.